Hello, and welcome to the 2023 ACEC Civil 3D Workshop. My name is Keith Sowinski. I am the Civil 3D Implementation Engineer at the Wisconsin Department of Transportation. In this session, I'll be presenting some of the advancements we've made with the WisDOT Civil 3D configuration. This will not be an exhaustive list of what we've done, and I'll be focusing only on the new and enhanced tools we provide. For a full listing of what's new since last year, visit the WisDOT Civil 3D knowledge base. Let's get started. Over the last year, we enhanced several of our tools based on user feedback. We added a new column to the Control Profile Editor to display the transition rate, or slope in profile terms, between PVIs. This will help identify areas where transition rates are greater than intended. For the earthwork detail report, we now support gaps that have been identified in the sample line group properties. These gaps now appear in the Excel report without additional formatting by the user. Our Load XREF on Layer tool automatically sets all the desired WisDOT XREF settings, such as overlay, relative path, and placing the XREF on a unique layer. Now, it also locks the XREF layer to prevent accidental edits, such as a move. The Design Surface Data Extractor is a critical part of our construction data packet workflow because it mines all of the break lines used to define our surfaces. However, it had a limitation where it would not work directly on corridor surfaces. Now, it will work on those corridor surfaces, so if you have a simple project that does not require a refinement surface, you will not be forced to create that refinement surface just to use this tool. Our two most popular corridor daylighting subassemblies, daylight profile controlled and cut fill profile controlled, now have additional flexibility when it comes to clear zone and recoverable width parameters. For daylight profile controlled, the clear zone width can now target a control profile. For cut fill profile controlled, the recoverable width parameter can now target a control profile. These are just some of the enhancements resulting from user feedback. Keep the ideas coming, and we'll keep making things better. Let's jump into some of our new tools. We've focused some time on the ability to just do basic drafting in AutoCAD. First, let's focus on lines. We've added two tools. One is called Floating Line. This tool creates a line that is tangent to a selected arc or circle object. The line is displayed dynamically with the cursor position until the final endpoint is selected. The second line option is a free line. This creates a line that is tangent to two arcs and circles. A preview of all possible tangent lines is displayed, and the user can select from them. Let's do a quick demonstration. Before I get started with the tools, I'd like to point out a feature that's available in AutoCAD that many may not be aware of. You can actually grab panels from the ribbons and bring them into a floating state. That way, I can switch tabs from the ribbon at any time and still have my tools available to me. So let's say I'm working on just drawing tasks. I can grab the Draw panel from the WisDOT tabs, and I can grab the Draw panel from the Home tab. Maybe I also want my Modify tools available to me. Now, no matter which tab I'm on, I can have all the tools that I need most frequently right in front of me as floating panels. When I'm done, I can always send these back to the ribbon. Now let's focus on the tool itself. So again, this was found under the WisDOT Design tab, and it's the Draw panel. I'm going to try to do a floating line. So with the floating line, it first asks you to select a circle or an arc. I'll select a circle here. Now you can see that I get this floating line that is waiting for its endpoint. I have several options at the command line. I could just pick any arbitrary point, or if I start the command again, I can try some of these other options. If I hit reverse, it's going to jump to the other side of the circle. So depending on the direction you want to draw that tangency, you have a quick way to jump back and forth. I have an option for tangent to and perpendicular to. So instead of fiddling with object snaps, if I just click tangent to, I can select a second arc or circle. I'll select the arc over here. Now what it does is it gives me all the possible tangencies that could be made. And then at this point, you can select the one you want. We can run the command again, and this time let's try the perpendicular to option. Now I can select another arc, circle, or even a line. So I'm going to select the line up here. Again, it gives me all the possible lines that fit the criteria, and I just need to pick the one that I want. Let's try the other option on the lines menu, free line. So for free line, it asks me to select the first arc or circle. I'll select my circle, then I'll select a second arc or circle. Again, it just gives me every possible option to fit the criteria. I'll select the one that I want, and I have my free line. Now let's cover the curves. The curve menu includes two commands. Just like the line commands, we have floating and free. The floating curve creates a curve or arc that is tangent to a selected arc, circle, or line object. The curve is displayed dynamically with the cursor position until the final endpoint is selected. The free curve creates a curve or arc that is tangent to two selected arcs, circles, or lines. A preview of all possible curves is displayed for the user to select from. Let's do a quick demo on this. So again, this is also found at the WisDOT tab and the draw panel, which I've already undocked from the ribbon. I'll select curves and I'll draw floating curve. From here, I can start from a line, an arc, or a circle. Let's select a line. And we're going to pick a curve radius. I don't know, let's say 1,000 feet. So you can see we have our arc dynamically displayed and it's waiting for the endpoint. You'll notice the dashed line. The dashed line is simply marking where you selected. That's useful because if I want to come off the line in the other direction, if I just simply have to be on the other side of that selected point. So when it comes to selecting on a line, it matters where you select it. At any point, I can change the radius of this arc just by going to the command line and selecting radius. Let's say I want it to be something much larger. Maybe I forgot a 0 in this case. So I'll put 10,000. And now my arc is much bigger. From here, I can use my object snaps, or I can select any arbitrary point, or better yet, if I want to go tangent to something else, I can just select tangent to from the command line. Now it wants to know another arc, line, or circle to connect to. Let's select the circle over here. Now it's going to give me every possible arc that meets that criteria. I'll pick the one that I want. Let's try the free curve option. I'm prompted for the first arc, circle, or line. This time let's come off the circle. And now it wants to know what we're connecting to. Well, I want to connect to this other arc over here. And we need to specify a radius for the arc. So it gives you a hint. It's not going to be able to find a solution unless you have a radius larger than the value specified. In this case, about 1,481 feet. Well, let's pick something like 5,000 feet. Again, it's going to give you every possible option to meet the criteria. Let's say we wanted this one. We also added a new tool to copy and paste assemblies, not only within a drawing, but between different drawings. This tool can be accessed from the Assembly Object right-click menu. You have the option to paste to original coordinates or to the coordinates of your cursor. Let's do a quick demo. So here we have an assembly, and let's say I want to create an additional copy of this. I can do that within this drawing with the simple copy command, and I'll just move it up for making a copy. So that's one way to do it. But now we have a new tool that adds additional options. If I select the assembly, and just the assembly, we don't want to select all the sub-assemblies, just the assembly object itself. I can right-click and pick Copy Assembly. Now the assembly has been copied, and if I right-click again, I get an assembly menu where I can paste or paste to original coordinates. Let's say we just want to paste it to wherever we place our cursor. We'll pick a location, and this time I'm selected for an assembly name. Well, we can't have the same name, so we're going to call this Rural Full Section Copy. So now we have an additional assembly. That process itself wasn't very difficult if you're just working with a single DWG. But let's say I open another DWG. The process to move an assembly from one DWG to another usually required dragging the assembly object to a palette temporarily and inserting that assembly from the palette. Well, now we can do the right-click, copy assembly, go to the other drawing, right-click, go to my assembly menu, and I can either paste to original coordinates or paste. Let's do to original coordinates this time. It wants to know the name. There are no other assemblies in this drawing, so I can use the same name, so I'll hit enter. Zoom extents, and there my assembly is in my new drawing. The next new tool that we introduced is called Create Surface Profiles. Now, the out-of-the-box Create Surface Profiles tool that comes with Civil 3D has the ability to make multiple surface profiles for a single alignment. What our Surface Profiles tool does is adds the ability to add multiple surface profiles for multiple alignments all at one time. Let's do a quick demo on this as well. So here's an intersection scenario, and I'd like to make multiple surface profiles for my curb return alignments so I can develop that final curb return profile based on that information. I've already created my profile views, so you can see these surface profiles get created. I'm going to go to WisDOT Design. I'm going to go to Profile and Create Surface Profiles. So now I can either pick from the list of alignments, or I could use the picker here and just select them on the screen if I don't remember the names. And those will automatically be selected. Now I'm going to pick a surface to create a surface profile for. Let's say we've already created surfaces for our maximum condition, our minimum condition, and what would be considered our normal condition. So let's create all three. Starting with max, we're going to give it a profile style. It doesn't really matter at this point, but I'll just pick something. We'll just pick pavement edge. We don't really need labels at this point, and I'll go ahead and add that. So another difference between our Create Surface Profiles tool and the out-of-the-box one is just adding it to the table itself does not add it to the database. This is a preview of the surface profiles that will be created once you have everything set up the way you want it down here in the table. From here, I can pick different station limits if I don't want to use the full range. I can pick a different offset, maybe if I wanted a surface profile for a different offset from the baseline. And here I can go ahead and have another chance to change the profile style, label set. And you can also change the update mode if you didn't want it to be dynamically connected to the surface. So there's our 4 profiles for our max condition. Let's do one for our normal condition, and we'll just pick a different style so we can see the difference. We'll add those, and now I have 4 additional profiles. And let's pick the minimum condition, and we'll pick another style and add those in as well. So again, these haven't been added to the drawing yet. This is just a preview of what will be added. So from here, I can change the names. I can change the station, start and end, the offsets, whether to draw them or not, and of course all the styles can be changed as well. I can see here I forgot to change the style for one of them, so I'm going to change that now. Once I have everything set up the way that I want it, I can just click OK. And you can see the table has been cleared out because those have now been added. Once I close the drawing, those will appear on my screen, and I've got all my surface profiles created for all the alignments I chose. Got it done all at one time. We added a new tool called Add Update Block Mask. So what this does is it creates a mask behind any blocks that you select. It's accessible both from the WisDOT ribbon tabs, and it's also accessible from the block right-click menu. You use the same command to both update the masks and to create new ones. Let's take a look at this one. So here I have some aerial imagery on a project, and if I look at my plan sheet, you know that those blocks are, we'd like to have a mask behind these blocks so they stand out from that aerial imagery. If I jump right into model space, I can either go up to sheets and sheet tools and add update block mask, or as a shortcut, I'll just select the two blocks. I'll right click and add update mask. And now those have been updated. Now, if for some reason, let's say these move to a new location, move them over a little bit. Well, now the mask doesn't line up with the blocks. Well, that's easy enough. I'm just going to select them again, and all I got to do is right click, add update mask, and the mask will move right over back behind the block. Another scenario is maybe I change the visibility state of the block to not show the size. Well, now the mask is a little bit larger than it needs to be, so I can again right click, add update mask, and now the mask is redefined around the limits of the block. We added a new tool called Purge Unused References. So the purpose of this tool is to help you identify and quickly remove any references that just aren't being used in the drawing. It's a good way to keep your file sizes down, keep your drawings loading faster because they don't have to go looking for those references, and just eliminates some clutter in your drawing. So let's go ahead and demonstrate this tool. First, I think what we'll do is we'll bring in some more references just so we can better demonstrate how it works. It's going to drag in a corridor. And okay, we're going to bring all that in. And now we have a corridor in this drawing. It's a data reference. And we'll go ahead and find the tool. It's on each one of the WisDOT ribbon tabs under the Management panel, GWG pull-down menu. And there it is on the bottom, Purge Unused References. Here I can browse through all the data references that aren't being used. And it also shows me, just for convenience, all the X references. Now, normally you can remove the X references from here. We give you the option to do that. In this case, you see the two X references that are attached. They are actually grayed out. I can't select them at all. And the reason is shown right there in the tooltip. It says because these are on locked layers. So if you wanted to remove these, you would first have to unlock that layer, and then you could remove them. So here we can browse around. We can see references that are not being used at this point. Let's say we want to remove, let's remove everything that we can. Let's remove the alignments. Let's remove that corridor. And we'll go ahead and hit Purge. It's going to tell me that 21 entities will be erased. Are you sure you want to proceed? Yep, I do. Okay, hit that. And then the dialog automatically refreshes, because what happened is now we have some profiles that can be removed. Before, these profiles were being used by the corridor that was data referenced in. Now that the corridor is done, now the profiles are not being used. So as you can see, you may need to iterate through this multiple times to get through the various layers. And you may find out that, wow, I'm really not using much anything in this drawing. And it's just a good way to keep your drawings clean. So now let's remove those profiles. Purge. And sure enough, those profiles are removed. So now there's some alignments that can be removed because a profile isn't using those. So I'll do the same thing to the alignment. So now you can see we have nothing extra in this drawing that isn't being used. Obviously, some things aren't being used, but you need them for visual purposes. Then you just wouldn't remove those ones from the drawing. Next, we have our general notes speed sheets. Now, this is really a series of tools found on our general notes palette. While the general notes palette itself isn't a new tool, some of the tools on here are new or greatly improved. So what this does for us is it gives us a lot of interactive blocks for quick entry, and it provides us a set of standardizations for layout, for the content, and for the general notes themselves. Let's take a look at how this works. So in Civil 3D, I have my general notes palette up. And to access that, you go to our WisDOT Sheets tab, and under Sheet Creation, we have a menu here that includes Title Sheet and then General Notes Sheet. So you just select General Notes, and that palette will pop up. So once you have that palette available, the first thing you want to do is click on this O2 General Notes Speed Sheets button. This is going to create a new drawing and have all your layouts all ready to go. So each one of these boxes represents the viewport for the sheets. Now you may not have 5 general note sheets. You may only have 1. If that's the case, you only need to utilize 1. Or if you have more than 5, well, then you can just make copies of these boxes and add the additional corresponding layout. So there's a couple ways you can build the general notes using the palette and this speed sheet once it's open. First, I'm going to cover the easy way and my favorite way, and that's simply to use this Insert General Notes blocks. This is going to insert all the general notes blocks in a standardized layout in one click. The other way to do it is to go down below, and we have all of the blocks that are here. We have them all separately listed down below. So if you wanted to piece by piece build your general note sheets, you could do that. Other tools we have available on here is just a quick button to remind you and to make it easier to just change the layer to P miscellaneous text. And then we have buttons to quickly change your text style on the fly right here from the palette. So let's take a look at some of these blocks that we now include with the General Notes palette and the General Notes Speed Sheets tool. Starting with the utilities, if I were to just double click, we have a lot of placeholders here. If I were to just double click on one of these, I get the Enhanced Attribute Editor. So from here, I would be able to quickly populate all these fields. So let's just make up a company name. Let's just call it MDU Electric. And then contact name, I'll just put myself. Address, 1234 CAE Street. And we'll say it's in Green Bay. And phone number, we'll just to save time, you just fill the rest of these in just like the rest of them. You hit apply, and now that's all been populated in a nice standardized format. And I can just keep going down the line. I just select the next one, fill it in until you have them all done. The next thing, you can keep this enhanced attribute editor open. And if you use the select block button, I can go over to this side where I have like my DNR liaison, the design project manager. I can select on these. I can fill all that information in as well. Further down, we have another block, the order of section to detail sheets. So this is a block. Again, if I double click on it, I've got up to 30 sheets that I can fill in here. So let's just say this one, and it's not going to show up in the block itself until I put a value here. And you can see that shows up dynamically. So a real quick way to do your order of sheets with that nice interactive block. We have a paving table block. We have an additional grip where we click on that and we can add however many layers we have in our pavement section. And just like the other blocks, if I double click on this, I get the attribute table and I can fill in all these values. And we could just make a copy of this for each one of the roadways we need to describe the new pavement structure. If I look a little further down, we have the runoff coefficient table. Here, this is another one. If I double click on it, I've got a couple fields that I can fill in. We've got our total project area and we have our total disturbed area. So we just fill in those values. We have the standard diggers hotline block. There's nothing to do here, but just make sure it's on your actual general notes sheet. And then over here we have all the standardized actual general notes that you may or may not want in your general notes sheet. We have just some notes up here as a reminder of how to use this. So basically these notes highlighted in green here, you have to pick at least one of these. So what you do is you go ahead and you select this block, you explode it, and now I can double click in here and edit this text. And if you're wondering about the green text in the green box, if you select that and look at its properties, it's actually on a no plot layer. So you could go ahead and remove that if you want to, or you just leave it there and it's not going to matter because it's not going to plot. And as far as all the other general notes, if I just double click on this, again, this is all just one text, one piece of M text. So I can just go ahead and remove the ones that I'm not going to use. Over here we have a list of standard abbreviations, or it's actually in a table. Now if I go ahead and explode this, you'll find that this is actually an AutoCAD table. So you can go ahead and edit this any way you need to, so it's appropriate for your project. And as I mentioned earlier, all these blocks again are available right here on the general notes palette. So maybe you accidentally deleted one of these blocks, or you're building it from scratch, or you need another copy. You can access any of these blocks right here on the palette. Next, we have a new tool called Add Corridor Entity as Breakline. So the purpose of this tool was to make the process of refining your surfaces for your deliverable a little easier. There's always a few manual break lines that need to be added, mainly for the purposes of swapping tin edges and getting your surface looking as good as it can. So what this tool does is it adds a corridor entity to a surface definition as a break line. The break line is nothing more than a siteless feature line, but what's special about that is that feature line can then be tied to another surface elevation dynamically. So if your design changes and your elevation changes, for a surface that feeds into your final surface, that brake line can then take those changes automatically without having to redo that process again. So let's take a look at how this one works. So here I'm in my one of my refinement surface drawings, and you can see this is a very common scenario. I have an intersection, and I've got these tin edges that just are not oriented the way I'd like them to be. And I have these big flat spots in these quadrants. Now, the way you'd normally take care of this is you would just go ahead and draw a line. And you would just select there and select here, and maybe a 3D poly might be useful because then I could go from here to here and then close it off on this end. And then I'd select my surface and brake lines. Okay, add that. And now I've cleaned that triangulation up the way it should be. And it's a good way to do things too, because now when we extract our brake lines, that one line that we've added is going to be included in that brake line set for the contractors. So that'll assure that when they build a surface, the tin edges are going to be oriented the way they should be in the intersection. So that's sort of the manual way to do it. Let's go ahead and undo that. So to do that same task with the tool that we introduced, we need a corridor in this drawing. So I have the corridor, the source corridor that helped create this surface. It's in another drawing, so I'm just going to deref it in. And we'll go ahead and select the defaults on this. So now with this corridor in this drawing, I can identify that same brake line that I added manually. It already exists. It exists in the corridor as a link. So if I want this particular link from the corridor to be part of my surface definition, this new tool will take care of that for me. So I'm going to go to WisDOT Design, the Design panel, and up above we have Surfaces. And there's the Add Corridor Entity as Brake Line command. So it first asks you for a surface. I'm going to select my refinement surface. Now it wants to know which corridor entity do I want to add. So I can add a link, or I can add part of a feature line. So let's say there's a feature line all along the side road center line. If I wanted to add just this one segment between these two frequencies, I could select that and it would be added. Obviously, I don't need to do that because the corridor already added those brake lines to the surface definition. But what I do need is a single link right here to straighten out these tin edges. So if I go ahead and select that, it inserts the brake line and it adds it to the surface definition right away in one step. Now the command remains active because chances are you've got a few of these to do. In this case, I've got 4 that I need to get done. So I'm going to go ahead and select the next quadrant. That one's taken care of. I've got one over here as well. And then we'll finish it off with this quadrant here. Once I'm all done, I'll just hit enter. And now that surface is looking much, much better. So what this did is it created a siteless feature line. And what's special about this siteless feature line is if I go to the elevation editor, just right over here, you can see that it placed its endpoints relative to a surface. And it placed them relative to the surface corridor 25 top. Well, what's special about that is that the corridor 25 top surface is an input to the refinement top surface. So if the corridor 25 top surface moves because your design moved, these feature lines are dynamically connected to that, and it moves up and down to match those elevation changes. And you never have to draw this line again. Now, if there's some horizontal geometry that changes, all bets are off. You're going to have to redraw these lines. But now you have a tool to do it very quickly. So what's nice about these is it's very quick to add the brake lines the first time, and if if nothing changes except the elevations, you're good to go to the end because they're going to follow along with that corridor surface. The final tool I'd like to talk about today is the Published Collections Manager. So this tool was introduced to help make plotting not only easier, but much, much faster. So the tool is used to plot a collection of DST files at once. Or if you only have one DST file for your whole project, that's fine too. You can still benefit from this tool because the speeds are just that much better. In some of our testing, we found that this tool plotted 75% faster than if you were plotting directly in Civil 3D. And as many of you know, if you use DWG TrueView, you can plot things faster, but this tool plots 30% faster than even DWG TrueView. So there's a lot of time to be saved if you do your plotting using DSD files and the Published Collections Manager. One of the nice things about this tool is you save this published collection, and once it's saved, you can actually schedule these plots to plot with Windows Task Scheduler. They can be plotted without Civil 3D even open. So maybe you wanted to just have an updated set of PDF files like once a week or every day or whatever you need to do. You can schedule to have this thing run and create your plots for you in the middle of the night if you wanted to. So let's take a look how this one works. So the WisDOT Published Collections Manager, it can be found on the WisDOT Sheets tab, and over on the plot panel, it's on the bottom, Published Collections Manager. I'm just going to go ahead and shrink down Civil 3D a bit, just because I want to show what this tool is doing in the background. So this is what the dialog looks like, and I currently don't have any published collections created at this point. So these are stored actually on your C drive under C WisDOT STND. There's a folder called Users, and then there's another subfolder called My C3D, and then whatever version we're in. So in this case, C3D 2022, and then a subfolder below that called My Published Collections. And currently there's nothing under here because I don't have any published collections created yet. So let's go ahead and create one and see what happens. I guess first, we're talking about DSD files here. So if you're not familiar with DSD files, if I go to Civil 3D menu and then Publish, you get this dialog box. And if you're familiar with this, you're probably familiar with the DSD files. But here you can add all sorts of drawings and sheets and create this sort of batch publish event. And then you can save that as a DSD file. So that's what we're talking about here with the DSD files. So going back into the Published Collections Manager, I'm going to create a published collection. And I'm just going to call it My Publish 1. But you could call it, whatever is appropriate for your project. I'll click OK. And now you can see a folder was created under My Published Collections. If I open that, I've got several files that were also created. First, there's a batch published DLL. This DLL does the heavy lifting of the actual plotting of the sheets. So that's automatically populated. Skipping the XML for now. Down below we have a publish.bat file. So this is a batch file where we could go ahead and, without even Civil 3D running, once I have this all set up the way I want it, I can just run this batch file and it'll do the plotting for me without having Civil 3D open. And in that same respect, I can schedule using Windows Task Manager to run that batch file at any time and make it a reoccurring event. And I'll go into that a little bit later. And finally, there's an SCR file. This is a script file that just executes the actual publishing. Now going back into this DSD published XML, this sort of is a XML file that carries all the information that's being populated into the Published Collections Manager dialog. So as you can see, we have a section DSD list. This would be all the files that we are going to plot. And then we have our settings, which is our configuration file. So let's go ahead and add some DSD files. I'm just going to go up to my, let's see here, I've got some project files I can use as a test. So here I have a whole list of DSD files. And you know, you can set these DSD files up in any number of ways. You can like put all of your project sheets into a single DSD file, or you can have it broken out into sections, or you can have multiple projects having multiple DSD files. So let's just say I want all these DSD files in my publish collection. So now I see my list there. I don't see any changes yet in my XML because actually I need to save this. Now that I've saved this, you can see all those files have been populated into that XML file. At this point, you know, I'm good to go. I could go ahead and run this. I could run it right here from the Published Collections Manager by hitting Run, or I could run it using the batch file in my Published Collection folder. Just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to skinny this down to just one DSD file, so we're not taking up too much time. And I'll save this and go ahead and run it. And you'll see this is AC Core Console that starts up, and it goes and publishes the file that I provided. So that's going to run for a little bit. And it's also going to create a log file in the CSV, so you can kind of see what happened. And now that plotting is complete, there's my new PDF file. So it goes right where the DSD file has designated that PDF file to end up. So that's how, you know, in general, how the Published Collection Manager works. Now I want to show how you can use this to plot without Civil 3D even open, and even do it on a scheduled event. So I'm going to go ahead and close some of this out. We don't need Civil 3D open anymore. So here I am in Windows Task Scheduler. So from here, there's a lot of options and buttons and things like that that you can experiment with. But if I just want to create a quick task, I'm just going to do this create basic task. And I get this, this wizard. And I'll just call this, I'm just going to call it My Project Publish. And you can add a description if you want to. For the sake of time, we'll just continue on here. And how often do I want this to run? Well, let's just say I want to plot an updated PDF of my plan sheets once a week. So I'm going to pick weekly. All right, when do I want that to happen? Well, let's say I want it to be ready to go like every Friday morning. So I'm going to pick Thursdays. So I'm going to pick Thursday, and I can choose the time. Let's say 3 a.m. and click Next. And we want to start a program. Click Next. And we'll go ahead and browse to our Publish collection. So I'm going to just select that batch file that was automatically created for our Publish collection. Hit Open. And we'll hit Next and Finish. So now I have in here a new scheduled task, My Project Publish. And it's going to run every Thursday of every week at 3 a.m. So just to demonstrate, I'm just going to hit Run. And there it's going to fire off AC Core Console. and it's going to go ahead and replot that that particular DSD was for a cross section. It's going to replot my cross sections. And then you'll have a fresh PDF every Friday morning. So this is just a really nice way to make publishing scheduled, make it so it's not taking up time when you could be doing other things. And even if you did publish your plan sheets during your work hours or whatever, it's not going to take nearly as long because it's running through AC Core Council, and it doesn't have that extra overhead that it would be running in both Civil 3D or DWG TrueView. So that wraps up my presentation for new tools and enhancements we've made. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. But finally today, I'd just like to express my sincerest thank you to all the users who have provided suggestions or feedback on all of our Civil 3D customizations. Most of the tools that I covered today, they stem from users like you who have identified a need or an idea. So I highly encourage all of you to participate in our WisDOT Civil 3D Futures Trello board. This is the best and fastest way to provide feedback, report defects, give us suggestions on new ideas, all to make our customization better. So if you haven't been there before, I'm just going to do a quick demo of what that looks like. So if you go to trello.com/w/WisDOT Civil 3D Futures, you'll come to this page. It'll look a little different than mine because mine's set up from an administrative type view. But there's information here on the top. There's a link to the knowledge base that tells you all about how we're using Trello to do this. There's a introductory video you can watch, shortcut to our support email address. We have a disclaimer on here that you should read through as well. But the main thing for getting involved is through this Submit Ideas board. So once you're on Submit Ideas, we have all these lists, and they're just categorized, and we can add more lists or whatever. And basically just throw out what you're thinking. Throw out here what you think would be a good idea or an improvement or something like that. I mean, we've got some good ones out here already that, we're probably going to be acting on. But just want you to be aware of this. It's really easy to use. I can just, at any point, just add a card for any category. And I'm just going to put sample, but just give it a title that makes sense. And then in here, give it a description that tells us what you're looking for. This just helps us stay organized. It helps us understand what the user base is looking for with our customization. So it's just very helpful. The nice thing about this is it's also a way for us to have a conversation with you. So once you post that card on one of these lists, we can get more information from you. You can post attachments. We can maybe throw some examples or provide alternative workflows, things like that. If it comes to the point where we decide that we want to act on something, we have another board on here. It's called the Idea Status Board. Your card will actually get moved to this board, and you'll be able to kind of see and get status updates once it's in development, and then you'll get an update when that idea has actually been deployed in our package. So just a real good way to provide ideas and stay on top of the progress we're making on that idea. So that's the best way to provide the feedback and suggestions. But so what if you need support or have questions or just having issues with how to use our tools? Well, if any time you run into an issue using our Civil 3D customization, just contact us at support.cae@dot.wi.gov. We have staff watching that mailbox Monday through Friday, generally between 8 to 4. Hours are a little flexible, but those are our core hours. and that's Central Time. And we strive to get back to you with some kind of response. May not be the answer, but just to let you know we've heard you within a couple hours. But that, of course, that depends on the current backlog of messages we're getting and staff availability for that day. So again, thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation.